Beginning. The promise that outlived time. The stars did not change. That was the first thing Alira learned after she stopped aging. 300 years passed. Empires rose and collapsed. Languages evolved into something unrecognizable, but the stars remained constant. Cold, distant, eternal, just like her. She stood at the observation deck of the orbital station Valaris 9, her glowing eyes fixed on a particular patch of space she had memorized centuries ago. He had pointed there once. Long ago. Back when time still meant something. "You see that cluster?" he had said, his voice carrying that strange warmth only humans seemed capable of. "If I ever get lost out here, that's where I'll find my way back from." She hadn't understood at the time. Not fully. Her species, the Illyrians, didn't think in terms of getting lost. They didn't need to. They were born connected to memory, to time, to each other. Humans, however, were different. Unpredictable, fragile, and strangely unforgettable. His name was Daniel. He had been the first human she had ever met, and the only one who ever made a promise to her. "I'll come back," he had said, smiling like it was the simplest thing in the universe. No matter how long it takes. She hadn't realized how dangerous those words were. Not until he was gone. The day everything changed. 300 years ago, Valaris 9 was not a quiet relic drifting on the edge of forgotten space. It was alive. A hub of diplomacy between species. A place where the Illyrians observed, learned, and occasionally interacted. That was where she met him. Daniel Reyes. A navigator. A dreamer. A human who talked too much and asked too many questions. "You don't blink much, do you?" he had asked on their first meeting. She had tilted her head. "I do not require frequent ocular resets." He had laughed. Actually laughed. "Yeah, I'm gonna need a translation for that." It was strange. The way he spoke. The way he moved. The way he felt. Illyrians didn't experience emotions the same way humans did. Their feelings were softer, more controlled, like distant echoes rather than crashing waves. But Daniel was a storm. And somehow, without realizing it, she began to understand him. Days turned into weeks. Weeks into months. He would visit her observation deck almost every cycle. Sometimes talking. Sometimes just sitting in silence. "You ever think about leaving this place?" he asked once. "I do not belong elsewhere," she replied. He smiled faintly. "Yeah, I used to think that too." There was something behind that smile. Something broken. But she didn't ask. Not yet. The departure. It happened faster than she expected. Human ships were never meant to stay still for long. "I got reassigned," Daniel told her one evening, leaning against the observation rail. "Deep space mapping mission. Uncharted territory." She processed the information quickly. "You will be gone." "For a while, yeah." "How long?" He hesitated. "Could be years." Years. To her, that was nothing. To him, it was everything. "You may not return," she said plainly. He looked at her. Really looked. "I will." "You cannot guarantee that." He stepped closer. "Then I'll make you a promise." She didn't understand why her internal systems registered something unusual. A fluctuation. "I'll come back," he said again, softer this time. "No matter how long it takes." She studied his face, trying to memorize it. Every detail. Every expression. "Why?" she asked. He smiled. "Because I'd like to see you again." And just like that, he was gone. The years that followed. At first, she didn't wait. Not consciously. Illyrians didn't wait in the human sense. Time passed differently for them. More like a continuous stream than a series of moments. But something had changed. She began returning to the observation deck more often, looking toward that same cluster of stars. Days passed, then months, then years. No sign of him. Eventually, the station changed. Volaris 9 lost its importance. Newer, more advanced stations replaced it. Diplomatic efforts shifted elsewhere. One by one, the Illyrians left. "You should come with us," one of her kind told her. "I will remain," she replied. "For what purpose?"
She paused.
"I am waiting." The other Illyrian did not understand, but they did not question her further. And so, she stayed. Decades turned into centuries. Time became something else entirely. The station grew quieter. Empty corridors, flickering lights, systems running on minimal power. But she maintained it, repaired what she could, preserved what remained. And every cycle, she returned to the observation deck. At first, she told herself it was curiosity, then habit. Then, she stopped explaining it altogether. She was waiting, not because it was logical, not because it made sense, but because he had promised. The memory of a face. Illyrians do not forget. His face remained perfect in her memory, unchanged, unfading. But something else happened over time. Something unexpected. She began to feel. Not in the distant, controlled way her species was designed for, but deeper, stronger. Loneliness. It was overwhelming. She had never experienced it before. Not like this. And yet, she endured it. For him. The signal. It happened on a cycle like any other. She was monitoring the outer sensors when something unusual appeared. A signal.
Weak.
Fragmented. Human. Her systems surged with activity. Processing. Analyzing. It was an old frequency, obsolete by modern standards. But she recognized it instantly. It was his. Her entire being stilled. "No," she whispered.
It couldn't be.
After all this time, but the signal persisted. Faint, distant, coming from the very region he had pointed to 300 years ago. The search. She launched the last remaining shuttle without hesitation. The station could survive without her. Or perhaps it didn't matter anymore. The journey took days, then weeks. The signal grew stronger, until finally, she found it. A ship. Human design. Ancient. Damaged. Drifting in the void. Her hands trembled. For the first time in 3 centuries, she felt something close to fear. And the promise fulfilled. The ship was barely functional. Life support minimal. Power reserves nearly depleted. But there was one life sign.
One.
She moved quickly, boarding the vessel, following the faint readings, until she reached the cryo chamber. Inside was him, Daniel, unchanged, frozen in time. Her breath caught. "No," she whispered again. But this time, it was different. She activated the revival sequence. It took hours, but finally, the chamber opened, and he gasped. Air rushed into his lungs. His eyes snapped open, confused, disoriented. Then, he saw her. For a moment, he said nothing, just stared. Then, slowly, he smiled. "Took me a while," he said weakly. She froze, just like she had 300 years ago. "You," her voice faltered. "You have not changed." He chuckled softly. Cryo sleep has its perks. Tears formed in her eyes, a phenomenon she had only recently begun to understand. "You returned," she said. "I promised, didn't I?" She stepped closer. "You were gone for 300 years. He looked around.
Processing.
"Guess I'm a little late." She shook her head.
No.
Her voice softened. "You are exactly on time." Epilogue. A new beginning. They returned to Volaris. 9 together. The station, once empty and forgotten, felt different now. Alive again. Daniel struggled at first. The world he knew was gone. Everything had changed. But she was still there. And somehow, that was enough. 300 years, he said one day, standing beside her on the observation deck. You really waited all that time? She looked at the stars. Yes. Why? She turned to him, and for the first time, she smiled. Because you asked me to remember you. He laughed softly. I didn't think you'd take it that seriously. She tilted her head. I did not understand humans then. And now? She looked back at the stars, then at him. I am still learning. He smiled. Good. Because I've got a lot to teach you. And as they stood there, side by side, the stars, for the first time in 300 years, felt different. Not distant, not cold, but full of possibility.